Hello, good vach, everyone. Welcome. Let's tell some Sipurey tzaddikim and learn some Sichos Haran Shem. There was a small village where the father of the Heilige Rebbe Yitzchak of Berditchev, he was a Talmid Chacham. He lived in a small village. He was a Talmid Chacham, and he had no children. And he had a minig that he took upon himself to offer to anybody who came to his house a little bit of schnapps and some baked goods that can make mezainis, something. Because of the Halig Yidin, this minhag that Eliyahu Navi actually revealed himself to him and told him, you're going to have a son, be very, very special. He's going to illuminate the world. And Taka, that a year later, he had a son. When the neshama of this boy came to the world, Mishamayim, they told the Baal Shem Tov, the very holy neshama was born in a village which is not far from where the Baal Shem Tov was. It illuminated the world, and the bris is going to be at a certain day. Baal Shem Tov heard the Besar. He called his Talmud, the Magid of Mizrich, and told him, listen, I want to go to this village for the day of the bris, and I would like you to please join me. And of course, the Magid agreed. So they both put on clothing of simple merchants, and they came to the village in the night before the bris. And they came to the house of the child, and the way he always does, he gave him some brofen and some zainis. When they finished, they said that they are continuing on the way after the market day. He says, you can't leave my house now. He tells them, tomorrow I'm making a bris meal for my child, and I insist that you stay. Please stay. He says, we're sorry, but we can't stay because we have to take care, if you take to partake in a fair. So the Balabais, the Berditchev Azarov's father told him, if you stay for the bris, I will give you whatever profit you expect to make from this market day, from this fair, I will give you. So the Tzaddikim says, okay, if this is what you're offering, we are maskim, but with one condition, that one of us will be the sandik and the other one will be the moil. Well, the father of the Shavarov was taken aback. He said, you already promised the kibudim between the Rav of the city and some other very mechubadika people. But he said, he saw that they're insisting, no, they want these kibudim. And if he doesn't listen, if he doesn't acquiesce, they will continue on the way. So he agreed, okay, he's going to give them these kibudim, and he will appease the Rav and the Adam Chabodim something else. The next day, the moment of the bris, these two tzaddikim, they split in this kibudim of the sandakos and being motion, and their immense kedusha made a tremendous impression on the people, and they called his name Israel Lev Yitzchak. After a while, the Baal Shem Tov called the Maggid of Mizrich and said, listen, he told them that he's going to leave this world, and that the Maggid will stay after him. So the day will come with this boy that we were at his bris will need your favor. He says, I would like you to do the favor for him. So the Maggid says, I will do whatever you say. Just give me a simon that I will know which is this boy once he grows up. So the Baal Shem Tov gave him a simon. He said, your way is to daven the tefillah, the karbonis, until hoidu in your house. And then you go to the Besmedrash to start hoidu. He says, if a person will come in your Besmedrash and will ask for people to wait for him by saying hoidu until he goes to the mikveh and come back, you will know that this man is this child. And Baruch Hashem, Rabbi Yitzchok, this child grew and he went to learn yeshiva, so bracha, until he became, very famous. And when he came of age, he married the daughter of bull merchants that took him for a chassan, gave him a nice dowry, and proper wedding, the way it befits, the wealthy people of the town. A year later, after the chasana, this young man, Levi Yitzchok of Bedichev, he heard about that there is a tzaddik is called Rebbe Dov Ber of Mizrich, and a lot of people are going to him. He also wanted to go, so he went to his father-in-law. That's Kushus. So his father-in-law said, okay, he agreed. He says, but don't stay there for too long. When he got to Mizrich, he got to the Besmedrash, and he saw that everybody is finishing korbanos, and they're waiting for the Rebbe, to come to Besmedrash to say hoidu. So Rabbi Yitzchak Badishev said, please wait for me with saying hoidu, because I would like to, until I get to the mikveh and come back. When the Rebbe came, or the Dov Ber of Mizrich came, he said and told him about this young man came to Besmedrash, and he dared ask them to wait for him until he comes back to the mikveh. So the Maggid of Mizrich heard what they said. He remembered what Shem Tov told him, and he told him, you wait until he comes back. When he came back, after the tefillah, the Rebbe of Mizrich gave him a little bromfen and some mezainis, and they enjoyed themselves. And after a few weeks, he left. He left and went back home. And when he came back home, his father-in-law became upset with him, and he says that, what's wrong with you? You're no longer working, don't do anything to be mefarnes your family. So Litzah Badichev apologized before his father-in-law. He says, listen, if you want me to start working, I will do so. Now, the way of Rabbi Yitzchak's father-in-law was a few weeks before the day of the fair in the town of Halmitz. He sent messengers that will manage, the buying of the bulls that he was buying. And when they're buying the schar by the people of the place, and with a promissory note. And when the actually day of the fair came, he himself would go to watch, the sale, and with the profits that he made from the sale, this is how he paid for the bulls, for the steers that he bought, and the rest he took himself. That year, when he went to Halmitz, he took his son-in-law, Rabbi Yitzchak, to come with him and learn the profession of buying steers. A few days they came in with tremendous successful profits So he attributed the success in his son-in-law. And the year later, he sent his son-in-law alone, and he saw again he's tremendously successful. And the year later, he went to the market, and he was extremely successful, and he actually brought back a clean profit of 30,000 ruble. When he came back, a few scoundrels, waited for him, ambushed him, and in a base tomb. I don't think what it is. When he came, he says, "Come to this house. We have some." Actually, this is it's a base tomb. This it's a house of ill repute. When he came there, says, "Come to the house. We have somebody has a yahrzeit who wants to daven with a minion. We're missing one Jew." So Levi Yitzchak really wanted to hear Kedusha and Baruch of the minion. He came in. Immediately when he came in, he understood that this is a house of ill repute. And he said, "What you're looking for is just to take my money away. So here's all my money and let me go." He took the money and he put it on the table and he ran away. When these scoundrels wanted to take the money, they couldn't. They became afflicted with an illness that they could not move. They became epileptic, couldn't get to the money until one of the smart women there says, "Money, money, give us a permission to carry you and we will give you to the Rav of the town." And the minute she said that, Hakoiches came back and she gave it to the Rav of the town. And the Rav of the town made an announcement that anybody who was robbed by these scoundrels will come and take his money. But there was nobody there to ask for it. But Yitzchak already went home. When he came home with empty-handed, his father-in-law was very upset with him, and he smacked him. No. Obviously, you can imagine. You slap a Blevitz of Bedichev. So Blevitz of Bedichev went to his Rebbe, Dov Ber of Mezrich, to stay in the meantime. And his father-in-law thought that through profit by buying and selling the steers, he will pay all his debts. And he went into tremendous debt. And the people that gave him the steers, on commission, they threatened him that they will put him in that they will sue him. So he also went to Rabbi Dov Berfmitzvich to ask him, what can I do and help me get out of the quagmire. So the Maggid Mitzvich told me, "I cannot help you. You should go to your son-in-law, the tzaddik, Rabbi Yitzchak. He's the only one that can help you. And more so, you have to ask his forgiveness for having the gall of slapping him." So the father-in-law goes to Rabbi Yitzchak and appeased him. So Rabbi Yitzchak said, why did you wait to come until now? There's no way to save you now unless the courthouse will be burned with all the paperwork. And so it happened. The courthouse was burnt and all the paperwork were burnt. So old Barachov had to come to some kind of compromise. So afterwards, his father-in-law asked Rabbi Yitzchak, what happened to all the money? Where did you lose it? Rabbi Yitzchak told him, your money is by the Av Bedin of Halmetz. You go to him and ask him give you the money back. And if you don't have enough money for the road, just offer yourself to be one of the guards of the steers, of the bulls, all the way to Helmets. So his father-in-law did what Rabbi Yitzchak told him. When he got to Helmets, he heard the fourth announcement coming. How's the Rav? The owner of the money is requested to please come and request his money. And if not, they will give the money to Tzedakah. Immediately, he have to Daf Beistin, and he gave the Simonim, asked for his money. But the Rav refused. He says Rabbi Yitzchak himself has to come. So he wants to see him. He says, I will see him, then I'll give him the money. 3 days later, Rabbi Yitzchak came to Halmitz, and the minute that he stepped on the entrance of the house of the Rav stood up and says, Baruch habo Yosef HaTzadik, and kissed him on his forehead and gave him the money. So Rabbi Yitzchak took the money to his town and gave the money to his father-in-law. Of course, paid all his debts, and they agreed together in the presence of the Rav of the town that his father-in-law is not going to send him anymore, to do business, and he will be able to stay by the Rebbe of his rich. When his father-in-law passed away, Rabbi Yitzchak inherited all his money, and he gave all the money to the merchants. But they will give him a certain part of the profit. But they went bankrupt, and they lost all the money, and he was left penniless. So Rabbi Yitzchak went to his Rav. So his Rav told him, listen, these days, the Rav in the city of Berdichev has passed away. So you go to Berdichev, I'll give you a letter to the powers that be in town, that they will make you the Rav. I believe did not want to be a Rav. So it says, now they're building a mikveh in Berdichev. What I'm willing to be the caretaker of the mikveh. To clean it, to wash the floors, to make sure that the mikveh is working. This I'm willing to take. So his Rebbe told him, gave him a letter with this, said like this: Shalom and felicitations to all on Anshe Shlomeinu. I'm sending you a great person. It's a great going at Tzaddik that none of anybody, there was never anybody like him by you. Since he refuses to accept upon himself to be a Rav, and he wants to be the working in the mikveh, give him the responsibility for the mikveh in such a way that all questions that have to do with Torah, he will the one to decide them. Fasnida, whatever questions. Also ask him that he will make a drasha. Maybe once he gives it a drasha, maybe he will agree to accept the job as the Rav of the town. When he came with this letter to Berdichev, they gave him, okay, here you go, manage the mikveh. And he would be sitting in town and learning Torah, and the Rebbetzin was taking care of the mikveh, and he was Mara Shaila, and he was dashing, and the people loved it. And after a year, when he came to his Rebbe and he told him, listen, it's not befitting for you to be the one in charge of the mikveh. I'm beseeching you, I want you to be the Rav in Berdichev. No. The Maggid of Mesich asked him like this, so Rabbi Yitzchak agreed and became the Rav, and he became known as Rabbi Yitzchak from Berdichev, Rabbeinu HaKodesh called them the glory of the Kehillah of the Tzaddikim, to the point that in order to enact the Sichos of Rabbi Yitzchak, all you need to do is even just mention the name B'ditchev of the town. He's so synonymous with that, to invoke his Sichos, like in the So the next Maisa, we'll take a Maisa from Rabbeinu HaKodesh le'or Hachaim HaKodesh, Hachaim Menata. The time that Hachaim Menata lived in Yerushalayim, one of the people in town came to him and begged him, said that he became so poor to the point he cannot afford bread. And he begged him to do something for him. So the Hachaim HaKadosh had Chmonos on him, and he gave them a little zettel, and he said, "Listen," and he folded it well, and he said, "Hold this piece of paper very well. Go straight to the kosel, and between the holy stones of the kosel, just look for a place where you can put it in, and go home, and B'ezrat Hashem you have Yeshua." Person went to the kosel with this thing settled in his hand. While he was walking, the wind blew until the point it blew his hat off, and he didn't care because he had the yarmulke on. And when he's trying to lift up the hat inside the wind, that piece of paper fell off his hand, and the wind took it until he couldn't find it. He went back to the Hachaim HaKadosh, and he told him what happened. He says, "What can I tell him? Last time, Ilsa, there's no Ratzon in the Shemaim." Afterwards, they found this particular piece of paper in the streets of Yerushalayim. They opened it, and they say it was written a request to the Shechina Kedosha, and it's written, "My sister, my wife, my pigeon, my innocent, I ask you berachamim to mashpia parnasa to that particular person." And we'll sign his name Kodesh Chaim ben Moshe ben Atta, and they took this piece of paper they brought back to him. From this particular mitzvah, you can say a little bit about the kedusha of the Hachaim HaKadosh. Again, Aleinu B'ezrat Hashem. In the next couple of weeks, we'll continue with a couple more stories of Rabbeinu HaKodesh and Chaim ben Natan. It was the same time of Baal Shem HaKodesh, and the Baal Shem HaKodesh said if the two will ever get together, Mashiach will come. And obviously they never got together. Baal Shem HaKodesh tried to get to Eretz Yisrael. His famous trip that we all told the story during Tachrit Pesach is also in order to get together with Chaim ben Nata, the Hachaim HaKadosh, Sichos Again Aleinu. And now, B'ezrat Hashem, we will see a Sichos Haran. I have allowed myself to skip some of the Sichos, and so we can get to Sichos that we can actually speak about, even though all the other Sichos are very important as well. Nevertheless, I was looking for a Sicha that we will be able to it's not just historical, Maisa, but let me just see. I saw it was We will be learning in Mitzvah Shem, Sicha Kuf Nun Dalad. This is 154. And Nosson says, Shamati Bishmoy, I heard from a bit, from somebody told me that the Rebbe said that the thing that helped him most to come to his Madriga is only this Indian that he, of simplicity, that he would talk a lot between him and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and said a lot of Tehillim very simply, and this is how he got to what he got. And he said, if I would have known HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make out of me whatever it is that I'm now, that was such a chiddush, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. He says, I would have done one day what I did all year. In other words, he would be much more, he would do much more, and he said that he was longing for this avodah of pshitas be'emes, and he says, pshitas, simplicity, prostic. He says that he spoke with a few big tzaddikim. He says the only way they got into Madriga is through simplicity. And he says, prostic, simplicity. And the meaning of prostic is that they got to the Madriga with utter simplicity and innocence, and Zbeirah speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is how they got to whatever it is that they got. The Moreh Madriga they got. This is a good opportunity to get to speak about his Hisbodedus and the importance thereof. Hisbodedus, like Simcha, is not something just like it's a from thing, but it is something that when Rabbeinu spoke about it, he put it in two ends, two bookends of the kedusha. On one hand, Rabbeinu says it's beidus malak doilam minakol. It's something that its smile is greater than anything else. It is through the practice of his beidus, which means going and speaking to Kadosh Baruch Hu in your own language. A person can get to any madrega. A person can get to Ruach HaKodesh. A person can get to his Pashas Agashmius. Get to any madrega he wants. On the other hand, Rabbeinu says that a person can find himself, doesn't matter where he is, and even if he fell into the lowest spiritual abyss imaginable, through his Vaidadus, he can get out of the quagmire that he's stuck in, no matter what it is. His Vaidadus is not just something that people who are really serious about Avodas Hashem, it's something they should do. Of course they should. But the truth of the matter is that it is not possible to achieve true introspection and true presence of mind, Yishuv Hadas, without his Vaidadus. It is only when you speak to Kadosh Baruch Hu and you put the matter that you are besophic about on the table and talk about it, that you get the inspiration from Kadosh Baruch Hu to see which way you should go. While we're talking about this, one of the things that is Vaidadus is called Zat Hashem Bli Neder. We'll talk about it. There's a sefer that Rav Carmel Zechat Tzad Levocha wrote about his Vaidadus Bli Neder. We'll use it, so we'll maybe learn Sichos Haran a little bit here and there from the sefer about how to make his Vaidadus, and what to include in one's Bailidus to understand what it is that you need to do and how you need to do it. Because like this, I go to the, to make his Bailidus after about 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Basically, I said what I have to say. Give refer to this one, parnasa to this one, to me, to him, to this, what is, and everything without should be good for my children, my grandchildren, and all my friends, and all or whatever it is. Bada bing, bada boom, 3, 5 minutes, you're done. What's supposed to do for the rest of the hour? So there is like sort of like of a laundry list of what it is that one should do in his Bailidus, and then once you get down to it, it you might realize that an hour is far from enough to do it. The main akuda of his Bailidus is to agree to be present. We do a lot of things in order to escape being present. We work. I don't know, we watch something on the internet, we read stuff, we read books, we go to sleep, we're busy, we do a lot of different things. But his Vedas requires you to be present. And present means that you are willing to be present with zero expectations for what the next minute is going to bring. It sounds like the easiest thing in the world, but it isn't, because we don't really know what to do with ourselves. I mean, what am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to do? I don't know. So the nekuda that I'd like to touch upon today is something which the Zohar says that if there is judgment down here in this world, there's no judgment above in Shemayim. If a person doesn't judge himself here in this world, there's no judgment in the Shemayim. The principle is very easy to understand. Got yourself a credit card, you go ahead, and you use it and you use it and you use it without any sense of responsibility. Don't be surprised, you get into trouble. That's the easiest, simplest example of Ein Din Lamata. There's no judgment down here, there's a judgment up there. And this, of course, is true in this world to be a mashal for us to understand the way it is in Shemayim. The question is, what does it mean to have din lamata? What does it mean to judge ourselves? An interesting thing is that you see in the Vidui Meiser, when people would bring the Meiser, the Meiser Sheni to Yerushalayim, and with the Bikurim, and so they had a certain vidui, a certain confession that they said in Beis HaMikdash. Now, this is a very strange as far as confessions go, because that particular confession includes absolutely nothing negative of what you've done. It's all praises. I did this properly, I did that properly, I didn't do this improper thing, I didn't do that improper. In other words, I behaved with the Meiser exactly the way that one is supposed to. Now, Rebbe Shalom, I did what I had to do, now you do what you have to do, and bless Klal Yisrael. Excuse me? I've never heard of such a confession in which you are praising yourself. Confession is you say what you did wrong. So what's going on? The answer is, when one deals with confessions to check where he is in this world. If you go with only what you did wrong, the whole thing can become either a total escapist separation between you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You come in your kippur and you clap on your chest. I did this, and a chetch, and this, and a chet, and this. 3/4 of them you don't even know what you're saying. And just in Shalom, I will confess to absolutely everything and anything you say. Just don't hurt me. That's not the purpose of judgment. On the other end, it can become a game. I am like, I went out of the house this morning and I can't believe what I did. There were ants walking on the floor and I just stepped on them. And I'm broken to pieces. And his friend says, that's nothing. I came out of my house, there were no ants there. But the day before, there were ants there. And had I been, the day before, I'm totally torn to shreds for having stepped where there were ants yesterday. The whole thing would become a game. Who is the bigger owner? Who is more modest? Who is really playing the game, the shame game, better? In order to achieve proper judgment, you have to include also the stuff that you did well. Din means that you're running a store. You can't have just a set of books that writes all your expenses with none of the income. That's not called running a business. All you'll see is just you're losing and losing and losing. What happened? You have to put in what you're doing well in order to be realistic about what it is you're doing not well. Because when you're talking about the things you did well, you're not going to say, I passed next to a river and I saw a woman drowning with 7 children. I jumped into the water and I saved her. Because it didn't happen. What's nonsense? On Yom Kippur, we're clapping and clapping and clapping. We don't care. We did it. We didn't do it. It happened. Didn't happen. I don't care. I'm willing to admit to everything. Just get it over me. Just get it over with. But when you have to say about the thing you did well, realistically, it means that realistically you have to say the things that you didn't do well. The way for a person to judge himself, yesh din lamata and din lamala, is Rabbi Yitzchok ben der Zecher Tzaddik V'Bracha said as follows: any trial has to include the prosecutor, the defending, the advocate, and the judge. When you come to Kodesh Baruch Hu and you put on a table, I'm doing things, let's say, I'm not davening properly. In fact, I hardly even know what it is that I'm saying. I start from Hoidu, sometimes I already see where are you holding? You're holding by Ashrei. Okay, quickly I put it on my phone. So like ketchup, whatever it is that the Baal is holding, thinking of my film already when, the minute that he starts Asher Balatzian, by the time he's saying, Hoidu, I'm already way, my business, whatever it is, each one. So you're standing for the Kodesh Baruch Hu. He says, okay, now this is the time of the prosecutor to say. And you speak the role of the prosecutor. And he says, you call this davening. Who do you think you're kidding? Do you think in Shemaim they don't know what you're doing? Do you think Shemaim they don't realize? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Where do you think this is leading? And you hear all the prosecution and everything that lays down to the table. Now, when this is done, you're taking upon yourself in this way, there's between you and Kadosh Baruch Hu the role of the advocate. And you, as an advocate, you're saying, I'm not holding by actually starting and saying every single word for word. The prosecutor says, objection. The advocate says, excuse me, I didn't disturb you. You don't disturb me. Jew says, I'm not holding there. I'm hardly getting up to go to shul. I get to shul. I have the best intention in mind, but the minute I get to shul, I get this Yetzer Hara that just wants to get rid of the davening. And sometimes I'm chapping one bracha and another bracha, whatever it is, and the minute I finish, it gets me to forget it, and or I'm yielding to public pressure. They say, "Listen, you're davening by the Amud, so quick, and they're running. I want to hear tefillah. I want to, samech gula tefillah, whatever excuses that I can come up with." Now comes the role of the judge. You're putting both these things. You're being as honest as you can in both the prosecution and Minlamed Schosafit on yourself. This is not a courthouse that is looking to put you behind bars and punish you. This is a judge who wants to rehabilitate you. The goal of the judgment is to put you on the road to lead your life the way it's supposed to be led. So when you're done and you're speaking as the judge, you are inspired by HaKadosh Baruch Hu to look realistically and fairly into both sides. Chances are that as a judge, you will say the prosecution has obviously a lot of truth in what they're saying. But on the other hand, the defender also has a lot of truth in what he says. It's, it doesn't excuse everything completely, but it's realistic. It's true. I mean, the prosecutor is right, but he is, he's being a little bit, too idealistic. It's not, Itaka isn't realistic for you at this point in time. So the judge says, listen, this is what I want you to do. I want you to accept upon yourself to come to shul maybe 5 minutes earlier and say the korbanos first and say until Baruch She'amar, put your koyach into this and try to understand what are the words that you're saying, just until Baruch She'amar. Take it one step at a time. Build your davening. This is called yesh din lemata. Sometimes the judge will say to you, I mean, you yourself as a Kodesh Baruch Hu, talking to you through you, I'm sorry, this is inexcusable. These are things you cannot do. No, you just can't do this. The prosecution is right. At other times, the judge will tell, I'm sorry, prosecution is way out of line. It'll both happen if you do it. But the idea is that in order to have din lamad in hisbodedus, you have to have the prosecutor, the defender, and the judge. That Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu should be has to have a gewaldige week, a week of hisbodedus and pshitas and tehillim. Baruch Hashem, a gewaldige month of Kislev, Chanukah, and all good things are coming to us. Mizat Hashem, on Monday, we will continue the Maisim Baal Tefillah, Mizat Hashem, and Wednesday, the new Torah, Likut Haran, Torah Chavches, And Thursday, of course, we have Torah Samach. I'm trying to find out how we can sort of like find a place where we can learn Torah Lamed Gimel, which is the new Torah Zmanis. But whatever it is, Mitzvah Shem, I will meet whoever it is that I'll meet on Monday. I wish you a gewaldige Woche, a gewaldige month, everybody, and a very, very healthy winter.